Do you have designs on buying your first home? Well, here to talk with us about how to do just that is Haley Tolitsky from Cook Capital. Haley just wrote an article about this very topic for Retirement Daily and joins us now. Haley, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So we're eager to have you walk us through the article you wrote for Retirement Daily about this topic.
Awesome. Sounds great. So to get started, right now is a crazy time in the housing market. It's definitely a seller's market. There is not a lot of inventory and there's a lot of buyers. The pandemic has definitely changed things. People are looking to move out of cities. They're looking for more space and the demand is there. So really the most important thing is to do your research ahead of time, especially in a housing market like today. I know personally for myself, I just bought a home and I started researching about a year before I even put on an offer. I think it's so important just so you know what you're looking for out of a home and you're prepared both financially and mentally, because it's a really exciting process, but it also can be very overwhelming, especially if you're not aware of all of the steps, which is why I wrote this article to help everyone out and kind of just give an overview.
Great. So you want to walk us through some of the steps, the most important steps that people should think about?
Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to doing your research, there's 4 areas that I find very important ahead of time. So first is determining the area that you want to live in. So, like I mentioned, a lot of people are moving out of big cities. So do you value a lot of space? Do you want to be close to bars and restaurants? Or do you prefer more land? So really take the time to do your research, drive around, ask people that live in that area, just to make sure that, first of all, that's the area that you want to be living in. And then next is determining the type of house. So you could have a home, you could rent an apartment, you could buy a condo, townhome. There are a lot of different options, and they all kind of come with their pros and cons. So I think that's really important as well. A lot of condos and apartments and townhomes have HOA fees, so you want to keep that in mind. But for example, my HOA includes a pool, it includes my internet and trash, and obviously outdoor maintenance. So I really value that, and I think my fee is worth it. To others, that might not be the case. So really make sure you do your research on that as well. Third is determining the must-haves in your home. So whether it's square footage, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, do you want a lot of land? Are you willing to do renovations? That's a big one right now. There's a lot of fixer-upper homes on the market, but I know for me, I live by myself, I work full-time, so I was not willing to take on any big projects. And then fourth is determining what you can actually afford. So I think you really need to do a deep dive into your monthly budget. So looking at your income versus your expenses, how much can you comfortably put towards a mortgage each month? And then also factoring in closing costs and your down payment, because that is a huge expense that a lot of people don't account for. And also determining your credit score, because that really helps, approve your interest rate and the type of loan you qualify for. So make sure that you really take a deep dive into your finances and, being realistic about what you can afford comfortably. You might qualify for a higher dollar amount value of a home, but really thinking, what can I comfortably afford to not push my budget over its limits?
Right. And do you have a sense, obviously at the moment, interest rates are low, which means that people can afford more home than they could in the past. Do you recommend fixed versus adjustable rates for new first-time buyers?
Yeah. So right now, interest rates are so low, I would definitely recommend fixed. Most people are getting approved for fixed interest rates, and they're low. I think lately it's been in the high 2s. So, it's really a great time with interest rates, but definitely look into a fixed loan.
Right. And then in terms of down payments, I've heard varying numbers being floated around. What have you heard in terms of what people are putting down, or what would you recommend that they put down?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the standard recommendation is 20%. If you put down 20%, then you don't have to pay PMI insurance, which is just an additional insurance on your mortgage. But obviously, if you're a first-time home buyer, 20% might be way too high of a number, depending on how much you have saved. So the average first-time home buyer down payment percentage is around 7%. And it depends on the type of loan. So there's 2 different main type of loans that you can qualify for. The government has a first-time home buyer's loan. So this might be a good option. I know the down payment is a lot less strict. So you might be able to put down like 3 to 5%. But keep in mind, you have to pay PMI insurance throughout the course of the entire loan. A better option might be the conventional loan. So you might be required to put down, 5, 20%, depending on the type of loan. But that usually, if you have a higher credit score and a higher down payment, would be the better option. And keep in mind too, the type of home that you buy. So I know I purchased a condo and the minimum down payment was 10%. So again, if you can do 20, that's awesome, but don't feel overwhelmed by that number because there's a lot of flexibility and you definitely don't have to put down 20% right away.
So you mentioned too that it's a seller's market, and I've heard that sellers are now putting all sorts of restrictions on the offers. For instance, in some cases, they're suggesting that we'll accept your offer, but we're not going to renegotiate based on what an inspector might find post home inspection.
Yep. Yeah. It's a crazy time right now. And that's why it's really important to seek out a trusted realtor and a mortgage lender because they're going to help you throughout this process. My realtor helped me draft my offer letter and helped me determine the right amount because you don't know. It's a seller's market and you want to be competitive, but you don't want to, over offer. So I think it's really finding that trusted team to work with because they'll help you determine the right amount and how to proceed.
Right. And then generally, do you recommend that folks pre-qualify for a mortgage in advance of making offers?
Yes, great point. Absolutely. Especially right now, the market is so competitive. I wouldn't recommend going to even look at a house without having your pre-approval letter ready. It's very easy to do. Once you decide on a mortgage lender, they'll work with you. They'll run a quick credit report, and then they'll help you determine the amount you can afford. Sellers are really looking for that letter right now. If you don't have it, they're probably not going to consider your offer very competitive. So it's very easy to do, and I'd really recommend that as a first step.
Right. And here in this hot real estate market throughout the country, really, sellers are getting way above their initial ask price. What are your thoughts about getting into bidding wars?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on how much you love the home. Keep in mind your must-haves and that list that you made at the beginning when you were doing your research. Is this the home you have to have? You have to be careful because, the bidding wars are pretty crazy right now. I think that's also when having a trusted realtor comes in. They'll help you determine, how much is too much to offer. And again, just keep in mind, we are in a crazy housing market. So if your offer isn't accepted or you get outbid, there's definitely a home out there for you. You just have to be patient right now.
Well, Haley, we've covered a lot of ground. Anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to mention before we wrap up?
Again, just really keep in mind your finances. I think a lot of people are very eager to jump on the train and buy a home because that's what you're hearing right now. Everyone's doing it. We're in a pandemic. People want to work from home. Do your research and really take the time to think it out. This is a huge life-changing decision that you're making. So take the time to really think about it. Think about what you can afford, what you're really looking for. Everyone's different. You might have a friend or family member that's telling you it's the time to do this, but it's different for every person. So take the time to reflect and think about, is this really what you want to do right now? And what's the right process for you?
Haley, we want to thank you for chatting with us about this really important next gen money topic. So much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.